All right, hello everybody. Today I'm going to give you a review of the TrueForm trainer, and this is going to be from a runner's perspective. Um, I'm probably not going to have a whole lot of video in this. I don't think you want to see me running on the treadmill. It's pretty boring, but I will go over some of the details on this thing and talk about what I use it for. And I know this is going to be a different use model than other people, but I'm coming at this from the runner's perspective and not from a CrossFitter perspective or from a general training perspective, although you'll probably find some useful information in there, even if you are have those kinds of objectives. All right. So that's enough of the intro. Thought I'd give you a quick outline of the review. First thing I'm going to talk about is just myself and how I'm coming at the review, what my background is. And then I'm going to talk about why you might want to purchase a curved treadmill. And then talk about running by pace or heart rate on this treadmill. And then the question of can you run slowly, because you'll see a lot of videos of people running really fast on this treadmill. And a lot of the write-ups focus upon that. And then I will talk about form improvement and is the treadmill useful for that purpose. Then I got a quick something about the heart rate strap, followed up by noise, how much noise this treadmill makes if you're living in an apartment. It'd be a good thing for you to know. And then I will discuss construction. I got some more videos in there for that, followed by drawbacks and a summary. And just an aside here, I purchased this treadmill with my own money. I have no connection whatsoever with the folks that make the TrueForm trainer, and this is a totally unsponsored review, just for everybody's benefit. So a little bit about myself. I've been a runner for about 40 years. I've been involved in a bunch of other sports over that time as well, so weights, cross-country skiing, and cycling. And used to run just during the winter time, so the off season for cycling. But maybe 20 years ago, I shifted to running full time. So why would you consider a curved treadmill? For one thing, it gives you a higher intensity workout than running on the road. That wasn't my primary consideration. However, if you are like me and you don't live near a track, this thing is great for speed work, for running your intervals on. I just program the workout into my watch and then change speed as the watch tells me to. And there's no programming required of the treadmill, which is something you would have to normally do with a regular type treadmill. This is also very low maintenance. So if you do a little research, you'll find out that you regularly need to clean and lubricate the belt on a lot of treadmills. And then you'll see people with controller board issues, belt issues, a whole host of problems. Some people discover that the outlet they want to plug it into can't supply enough current, so those kinds of things. I am a person that doesn't like to mess around with maintaining the equipment. I would rather work out on it than have to babysit it and do a lot of maintenance on it. So that's kind of the angle that I was coming at it from. I think too, a conventional treadmill is probably not going to last you as long. I don't foresee having any kind of mechanical issues with this treadmill. When I looked around on the web, I didn't see anybody complaining about mechanical problems with this treadmill. And when you look at the construction, and I'll show you a little video of that later, it's pretty substantial. I don't see it wearing out quickly. So I mentioned that some people like this treadmill because it gives you a higher intensity workout. So that is a two-edged sword. If you are a person that runs by pace, you're going to find you're going to have to readjust all your paces to run on this treadmill. For instance, for me, my easy pace, if I were on a flat road, it would be about 8:15 minutes per mile. On this treadmill, that same pace is closer to 10 minutes per mile. If I were to run at my tempo pace, which is normally maybe 7:15, it turns out that my tempo pace is about 8 minutes per mile, maybe a shade more on this treadmill. So you're going to run slower on it. However, I mostly run by heart rate. And if you run by heart rate, the treadmill is ideal for that because it does have a display of your current heart rate. Now, there is a small discrepancy I noticed with that, and that is that the heart rate display can sometimes be a couple of beats off from what I'm seeing from my watch. So that's something to bear in mind if you're a person that runs by pace. So as I mentioned, it requires more effort to run on this treadmill, and that's something to bear in mind. I find that I need to transition to walking at about 13 minutes, 30 seconds per mile, 14 minutes per mile, which for me is an extremely slow pace. I don't think I can go any slower. Like I said, I would be walking if I tried to run more slowly than that. So my guess is, as a ballpark, if you are running at, let's say, an 11-minute mile pace on the road, that equivalent level of effort here would put you at that threshold where you might be walking. So I think that's something to bear in mind. It's an argument for trying out the treadmill in person if you can. So one of the things I was concerned about when I was looking at this treadmill was I saw a lot of videos online where people were using this for CrossFit and they're running crazy fast on it. And I saw all of the material about how, oh, this is going to make you work harder, you're going to burn more calories. To me, that meant absolutely nothing. It wasn't a selling point for me at all. I was more concerned with whether I could take an easy run on it, for instance. I knew it was going to be good for interval training, but could I take an easy run? The answer to that is yes, you can take an easy run. But as I'll talk about or have talked about elsewhere, at a certain point you're going to transition to walking, and you will be running more slowly on this treadmill. So that is something to bear in mind. Now, after I bought this treadmill, one of my friends let me know about an article that basically advocated for the treadmill as a way to improve one's form. Now, when I purchased it, I really didn't look at it in those terms. And in fact, the thing that held me back from buying this treadmill was the talk of all of the work it gives your posterior chain. And I am prone to Achilles problems. And I was very worried that I'd get the treadmill and that would aggravate my Achilles issues, because if you look at it, you're running on a slight incline, right? And that probably would tend to tweak your Achilles more, or so I thought when I got it. The reality is, when I started running on this treadmill once or twice a week, so I would substitute a road run workout for this, I found that my Achilles problem has totally improved over the space of a month. I no longer have the Achilles issues. I attribute it to the treadmill. My first run on it, I found that my Achilles recovered a lot faster, didn't feel as stressed. Now, whether that is because there's less impact on this treadmill, or there is some subtle effect on my form, which is what I think is happening, I didn't see the posterior chain issues that I would have expected to see. When you're running on this thing, it requires more effort, yes. It feels like you are pawing the road. And if you look at some of the running form videos, there are people that advocate for that kind of running style. So you've got to pull that tread. I think your feet remain in contact with the tread longer, but it does give you, I think, a better kick. And when I am now running out on the road, I run pain-free. And I have had some issues too with hip flexor strain, which also, and that was on one side of my body, also have seemed to be alleviated. It's hard for me to draw a cause and effect relationship between running on the treadmill and those changes that I've noticed. And I don't know what is doing it, but for me, I feel like it's been a positive benefit. So you may find that this thing improves your form. It will certainly make you very conscious of your center of gravity and where it is, and getting your body at the proper angle for running. I think that I have shifted a little more forward in terms of my center of gravity because of this treadmill, and I am running a bit more on my midfoot than I had before. Is its ability to show your current heart rate, because that is one thing that I do look at a lot. And I have a Polar H10, which I've shown here, that's compatible. So you need a Polar Gym Link compatible heart rate strap for this particular unit. And H10 is one. I believe the Polar H9 is another. There may be others. But can't use your Ant heart rate strap. And there's no pairing required with this. You simply wear the strap, you walk up to the treadmill, and your heart rate will appear on the display. So in terms of noise, because some of you are concerned about that, I measured it at about 55 dB for a fairly slow running pace, and that would be maybe a 10-minute mile. And then it's around 65 dB for a faster pace, let's say 8 minutes per mile. And it'll get a bit louder after that, but it's hard for me to take a screenshot of the audio app when I was running really fast on it because of the arm swing. Okay, so now I want to talk about construction a little bit to show you how this thing is put together, and it is built very substantially. So the side panel here, this is made of plastic. It looks to be a pretty heavy-duty plastic, though you can certainly step on this. I wouldn't worry about breaking it. It is not non-slip, although you can see it's got these ridges molded into it. All right, so now I'm lifting up this rubber tread, taking a look at all of the roller bearings that sit underneath it. And there you can see a piece of the frame there. There's a substantial frame, a substantial number of these bearings. As you can imagine, that weighs quite a bit. So you do want help if you're going to take this thing in and set it up. It's not a one-person job. It's about 30 inches wide, and I thought I was going to get it in through my door without having to turn it. But I did have to turn it on its side to get it through the door, and like I said, good thing I had help. All right, so just a view, this is the rubber belt. It hangs down a little bit, so if you're going to mount this on carpeting, that's one thing to keep in mind. You don't want this thing to sink too far in. Now, it does have some really significant wheels on it, so you can move it around. I chose to put it on a couple pieces of plywood, mostly because I didn't want the deep indentations in the carpet, and if I wanted to clean underneath it, it would be easier just to put something underneath there and clean it out. So what are some of the drawbacks with this treadmill? One thing is that if you want to do hill work, you can't really do it. You might be able to adjust the leveling feet a little bit. That would probably affect where you need to run on the belt as well, but it's not something to use if you want to run hills. Now, I live where it's extremely hilly, so I don't have a problem where I need to find inclines. Other things, as you'll see, the readout that give you your pace and your heart rate and all that, it's somewhat limited. For me, it wasn't really a big consideration, but it's definitely not a glamorous display. You're just talking a basic LED that gives you the information. I personally don't care for any of the bells and whistles, but you may be different. Some people might find the narrowness of the treadmill an issue. I did not. You'll find that the motorized treadmills are a lot wider, so maybe you have to think a little bit more when you're running on this treadmill so that you don't run off to the side. I think for me, the only practical limitation by the narrowness is that you probably can't put something like an NPE run sensor on there. You might be able to, but it might wear off more quickly because you're more likely to step on it and wear it down a bit. And then I mentioned having a handle on this thing. On the front of it would be nice. There's a handle on the back, so you can pick it up by the back and roll it around. So that's nice. But you'll find that this treadmill is probably just a little bit too wide to fit through a doorway. And so you need to turn it on its side. And it's heavy. So if you want to do that, having that other handle on the front would be very helpful. Now, of course, I'm pointing this out with this treadmill, but a lot of the commercial treadmills you'll find don't have the handles that allow you to easily turn them on their side either. And then finally, I think cost. Obviously, this is an expensive piece of equipment, and so it's gonna cost you a bit. In my case, I viewed this as this thing having potentially more resale value than a motorized treadmill, and then along with the advantages in terms of not having to maintain anything on it. And that was a big plus for me, because I'd rather work out than have to maintain the equipment. There is one other thing I should mention in terms of drawback, and that is that if you do run by pace, I think you'll find the pace readout to be somewhat noisy, so it'll fluctuate around. It's kind of like your GPS on your watch. So it'll fluctuate around by definitely a few tenths or more. And the other thing is it reads out in tenths of pace, so tenths of a minute per mile. So you won't see 8 minutes and 6 seconds mile pace, you'll see 8.1. So that kind of thing. So just to summarize here, I like the treadmill. I'm happy I got it. I think it's got a lot of benefits. The thing is built like a tank. It'll support people up to 500 pounds. And if you don't want to run on it, you can walk on it. My wife uses it for walking as well. It's got no maintenance required on it, and it's probably going to have a good resale value on it because you don't have to worry that the motor needs to be replaced or a belt needs to be replaced, control board it's going to burn out on it. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I think that if you are a serious runner and you have pre-programmed workouts that you are doing that are typically phased, a lot of you are going to have this on your watch. I have a Polar Vantage that supports those kinds of workouts, but a lot of people have Garmin that will support that. You're going to like this treadmill because there is nothing to program on the treadmill itself. So you will use your pre-programmed workout on your watch and you will run to that. Now the caveat is that if you run by pace, the paces will all need to be adjusted, but you need to do that one time. You will have to figure out, though, what the equivalent paces are for the treadmill as opposed to open road. So I think it's great for that. You can run slowly on this thing, as I mentioned before, even though that isn't a focus of a lot of the reviews. And I know that when I was looking at it, that was one of the things that I was concerned about. And yes, you can run slowly. Will it improve your form? Maybe. I think it has improved mine. But that is just something I think that's going to vary by individual. All right, so just in closing, I do like the treadmill. Once again, I wasn't paid for this review. I purchased a treadmill with my own money. I just thought there were a lot of things that weren't out there, weren't known about the treadmill. I wish I had known before I bought it. Okay, have fun, guys.